Good evening. Recently, the world's leading conspiracy theorists gathered in Washington, D.C. to stand up against the mandates. It was there that they, along with 40,000 freedom lovers, conspired to spread the worst kind of misinformation, truth, which has no place in our divisive narrative. That's why we work so tirelessly and fascistly to censor it. Who were the speakers? What did they say? And what impact did they have? Find all that out, plus have your mind controlled by us in tonight's special March Against the Mandates report. These extremists apparently want to make their own decisions about what they do with their bodies. This is alternative to allowing the FDA, which is controlled by the pharmaceutical industry and is in charge of regulating the pharmaceutical industry, to make their decisions for them about what they do with their bodies. Speaking on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in the exact spot that Martin Luther King Jr. stood for civil rights, these freedom lovers sought to continue his stand for civil rights, only now on behalf of the entire human race. But freedom-replacing mandates go against the will of Satan and have no place in North Korea or Biden's America. So were the speakers successful? Let's find out. Kicking things off was comedian and freedom fighter JP Sears. Let's see what this far-right extremist had to say.
Right now, we're authoring the future for ourselves. We have pen in hand. We will be telling our grandchildren stories. We'll either be telling them stories about what freedom was or what mandates were.
What a loser! He obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. He wants to deprive his grandkids of government tyranny and mandates? Can we get him on AOC's blacklist? We need to indoctrinate him into communism. And here's Kevin Jenkins.
Do you understand 58 years ago we were standing in this square trying to unite the world to come together to fight against the tyranny of their time? Now that it's our time to fight against the tyranny of our time.
Fun fact, Mr. Jenkins made Biden's list of 12 biggest spreaders of misinformation online, which is a telltale sign he's doing really good work. Many media outlets have tried to discredit Kevin Jenkins by calling him a white supremacist. Let's move on. And there were doctors who are dedicated to giving their patients the best medical care possible rather than treating them according to the narrative. Let's check them out.
We are 17,000 doctors. That's more than the NIH, more than the CDC, and more than the FDA.
As a society, we used to say, check with your doctor to see if something is right for you. But luckily, we've evolved past that and adopted a more modern philosophy which says, ignore your doctor and check with the mainstream narrative to see if something is right for you.
You and you alone have the autonomy over your body. That is your sole possession. In many ways, it's the only thing you really have.
Dr. Peter McCullough, the world's most published cardiologist, he doesn't know anything about medicine. Can we take the microphone away from him and give it to Whoopi Goldberg, please?
We are fighting against Big Pharma. They have controlled and captured our health agencies. And that is a war on repurposed drugs. We've known now for 2 years that there are cheap, safe, highly effective, and widely available medicines that can treat this disease.
Really, Dr. Corey? Big Pharma has controlled and captured our health agencies? I don't think so. You gotta understand, Big Pharma controls the FDA, and the FDA is in charge of regulating Big Pharma. So there is nothing to worry about as long as you're part of Big Pharma. And to all the detractors, if you don't like it, just quit not being a part of Big Pharma.
Doctors, now is the time to stand up and save our profession.
More like sit down and shut up to save the profit margins.
If there is risk, there must be choice.
Not if our attempts to destroy the Nuremberg Code have anything to say about it, Dr. Malone. Before we go any further, let's throw it over to our field correspondent, JP, who's got a special guest. Thank you, JP. I'm here with a real doctor who has not seen a single patient in over 4 decades, so you can trust he knows what's best for you. Anthony, what's your take on what these doctors are saying?
I don't like what they had to say. This meeting with me. I don't like it.
You don't seem trustworthy at all. Now back to you in the studio, JP. Excellent reporting, JP. Let's take a look at what else happened at the march.
The minute they hand you that vaccine passport, every right that you have is transformed into a privilege contingent upon your obedience to arbitrary government dictates.
Yeah, and what's the problem with that, Mr. Kennedy? That's exactly what every dictator throughout history wanted for himself from his people. Fun fact, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was number 2 on Biden's list of biggest spreaders of misinformation. Could you imagine a world where the Biden administration was the biggest spreader of misinformation? And when they saw people effectively spreading accurate information, they would just smear them and label them misinformation spreaders. So it'd be like the opposite of what's true. That'd be a weird world. What else did Mr. Kennedy have to say?
And what do we do about this? We resist.
I think obedience instead of bravery is what he meant to say.
And we will not stop fighting for truth, for scientific integrity, and for life.
What Dr. Christina Parks doesn't understand is that science is racist. So we're just going to ignore any science that's not scientifically aligned with our mainstream narrative that's based on science fiction.
The truth always prevails. We are victorious in truth because we are endowed with one great power, the power of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We are on the right side of history.
Wrong! What Del Bigtree doesn't know is that mandates and censorship are always on the right side of history.
I think he's coming from the perspective of the people rather than the authoritarians.
Oh. So like he's just not on the authoritarians' payroll at all? In the end, was the march against the mandates and the 40,000 people in attendance successful? Absolutely not. All they did was align with constitutional and God-given freedoms, which does not represent the voice of the American people. The voices of Americans are better represented by the politicians who are controlled by Big Pharma, who enact mandates against the Americans that they so accurately and honestly represent. These extremists terrorize the Lincoln Memorial with peace, passion, and freedom. And not a single one of them peacefully burnt down a building or destroyed any property, which is not acceptable. It is dangerous extremism when these alt-right misogynistic, racist, math-phobic people resort to using peace. All these fringe people at the march did nothing but embarrass themselves by standing up for freedom. That's just not a brave thing to do. Or something the Chinese Communist Party, Justin Trudeau, or the Biden administration can get behind. We'll leave you with these closing scenes from the March Against the Mandates in DC so you can judge for yourself just how radical these extremists are who believe in freedom rather than our mainstream narrative.
Spoiler alert, freedom wins.
Also, be sure to check out my full line of freedom merch at AwakenWithJP.com. I want to do a very special thank you to the sponsor of this video. It's a sponsor that's been with me for a very long time. They've been supported. I know everybody in my audience loves them. And that sponsor is Bioptimizers with their flagship product, Magnesium Breakthrough. Dude, are you anti-magnesium? Are you magnesium phobic? What's wrong with you? I love Magnesium Breakthrough, and it's not just because it helps me escape the label of being a radical mineralized person. I love Magnesium Breakthrough, and it's been in my evening routine for over 2 years now. Why? Because it helps me de-stress. Many people throughout the ages during this conversation have pondered, is the secret to a high quality of life reducing your stress? And therefore, is high stress one of the factors of a low quality life? Well, as you could tell by my tone of voice, that's a very philosophical quandary. But what's not philosophical is the fact that Magnesium Breakthrough is the key nutrient that can effectively reduce your stress. How's it do that? Well, by taking a couple of capsules in the evening, it gives your body the nutritional support it needs in order to effectively lower your stress levels so you can rest, recover, and have a more balanced mood, which I love. The only thing about Magnesium Breakthrough that stresses me out is when I run out of it, I get very stressed. It's quick, it's easy, it's effective. It takes you almost no extra time to effectively reduce your stress levels with Magnesium Breakthrough. If you want to reduce your stress so you can feel and function your best, just go to magnesiumbreakthrough.com/JP and use the discount code AWAKEN for the best deal ever.